Welcome to another episode of the Tower 26B Race Ready Podcast. I'm Jim Levitsky here once again with Coach Jerry Rodriguez. Coach, how you doing?
I'm good, Jim. How are you?
You know what? I am outstanding. We had a great swim this morning. I hit the trainer right out of the water. And actually, I'm a little beat up. You beat us up this morning, so I expect you to carry this show today.
Well, you had a fine session. You were, surprisingly, for racing on Saturday and Sunday at Malibu. Jim raced back-to-back this weekend. You were sort of itching yourself to get going.
Everybody's saying, hey, this 39-year-old guy, I got a month till I'm 40, so I'm still 39. I was happy with my run. You know, ran 5:30, 5:40 pace for a 10K on Saturday and then a 4-miler on Sunday after the swim and the bike on both days. So we'll get into why I was swimming so well later in the episode, so it's going to be an interesting one. This episode is titled, When Swim Lessons Are Overrated. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But we have some exciting news to share with the viewers and the listeners out there, Jared. We made an announcement last week. We're going to be in Kona for the Ironman World Championship.
Yes,
so we're going to be broadcasting an episode from Kona. We're going to have a live studio audience. We're going to do a little Q&A with the godfather of swim. So if you're in Kona, look out for that news. We haven't really nailed down the spot yet. We have a lot of different businesses vying for our attention that week, and we just have to take the highest bidder. Usually people pay to be in the restaurant or the venue. They're paying us to be there.
You are the greatest promoter of all time.
I feel kind of like Huckleberry Finn. You know, we're coming to you, you pay us to be there. So it's kind of exciting. We're going to be there. But what I'm really excited about is we're going to be able to interact with our legions of fans. They have the underwear run. We're going to push that aside. We're going to have the Lubinsky walk. Everyone's going to walk around me in their Speedos around town. It's going to be like the Pied Piper. What do you think, Chair?
Only you can pull this off.
We're gonna walk right to the water where we're gonna lead a swim lesson by the godfather of swim out in the, not a swim lesson, a swim workout out on the course, correct? Is that how we're gonna do it? Or are we still finalizing these details?
Still finalizing, but we're gonna run a few warm-up sessions each day, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Okay, good. It's going to be exciting times, and it's kind of all still coming together. We just announced that we're having our Kona-specific merchandise through Core Sports. We have that link.
Kebby did a good job at that, didn't she? Hillary did the...
Hillary, I'm sure Ash was involved. All these Tower 26 swimmers who run the Core Sports brand. They all swim for us and train for us as triathletes as well. So they put together our amazing merchandise. We'll put that link in the show notes for everybody going out to Kona, and everybody watching at home. You can cheer with your Tower 26 Kona gear on. So. And
Kebby, thank you very, very much for, an appreciative thanks for
they worked
all the
hard
work that you've done to help this come about.
They put it together real quick. We were actually doing the trainer workout at Performance last Tuesday night, and you had a request. She got on her phone and figured it out right away, and she's on top of things. So that's exciting.
So we have a deadline, by the way.
Deadline, if you want to order the Kona gear, midnight this Sunday. That's right. I can't tell you what date that is because I really don't know dates. I don't even know what day of the week it is right now, but Sunday night, midnight, Pacific time, order your Kona merchandise.
Well, since this show is live, we're Thursday. They've got 3 days, 3.5 days. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3.5 days.
That's why you're the brains of the organization, Jared, because I just, in the face, you come up with all the...
I've got 5 fingers. I can go up to 5. That's it.
Well, there you go. But, it's exciting because this is our, third or fourth live show? Or we call it a live show. I guess video cast, as we were informed by the millennials in the room, is old school. We can't use the word video cast. So it's our live Facebook show. I think it's our third or fourth. It's funny because we've had 30,000 Facebook views on our last episode and 21,000 downloads on our podcast. So something's going on. We're stimulating the audio downloads with our, I'm going to use the term videocast. All right, Jared, that's what comes to me naturally. Our live shows are stimulating the audio listens. Not sure what's going on there.
You know what's amazing is to think that we were actually going to shut this down 5 episodes ago because I thought we'd run run its course, but it seems that we still have a few more things to talk about, such as today's show. So,
and then we introduced the videocast so everybody gets to see our faces. It's like a whole new day in the Tower 26B Race Ready podcast. But we're also getting we've been talking about Guernsey a lot. We have a subscriber, Charles, from Guernsey. We're getting a ton of downloads from Guernsey. Who would have thought? They're the 18th on the list now. It's really moved up.
Since you talked about Guernsey, it's moved into the, what do we have, 150 countries, or listeners in 150 countries that download our podcast. On Guernsey's climbed. Is that Charles just clicking away on
You know what? I was just about to say that. I paid him a good amount of money just to go home and download. So it's working. So thanks a lot, all you guys listeners out there. Another region that's on the move is the Middle East. We have countries, Oman, Bahrain, Qatar. I'm going to get roasted on that one later too. But Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iran, United Arab Emirates, all these countries on the up and up. They're moving up the ranks really quick.
Yeah, the two fastest growing regions for the most part in triathlon, it seems like the Middle East and Asia. And those countries, Middle Eastern countries, have really been climbing up in listenership. It's great to see.
Well, it's going to be cool.
Thank you guys from the Middle East for listening in.
It's going to be really cool about us in Kona, because hopefully there's going to be a lot of listeners there that can meet us face to face, shake hands, kiss babies, take some selfies. You know, as long as they're wearing a Speedo, I'll do it. If you're not in your Speedo, sorry, you can't do it. Let's get on to the show, Jer. Enough of the banter. What did we talk about last show?
Well, we went through we gave two open water workouts that I call must-do open water workouts. If you're in your racing season, these are 2 sessions that you have to do, and in fact, do them multiple times. One was a pool session, so the open water dynamic of it was executed in the pool, and the other one is in the open water, and we gave those 2 workouts.
And that episode really blew up, as well as episode number 52, which is another open water skill episode.
It's our 2 biggest or fastest trending episodes, and there's sort of a common theme here. Anything with open water seems to be listened to or looked at more.
Well, that tells us what we need to talk about.
Yeah.
Right? What we're going to talk about this show. What are we getting into?
Well, interestingly, not open water, but related to it. We're going to talk about the value of the swim lesson, or when swim lessons are overvalued or overrated.
Yeah, and you find that every time someone comes in the pool and says, I need a swim lesson, they could be totally capable of swimming, say, I want a swim lesson. I just had it happen with an athlete last month. I need a swim lesson. We got in a swim lesson. The guy was an amazing swimmer. So,
well, you know, the most interesting thing is if you weren't running for, let's say you took a few years off from running and you didn't run, and you went out and ran day 1. You decided, hey, I'm going to go try to do a 30-minute run. What happens 5 minutes in, 7 minutes in? You haven't run for 5 years.
Like, quit and just walk off the court. That's
fatigued, right?
Done, yeah.
Yeah. Do you then go home and get on your computer or go Google running lessons?
No, never.
Why does this happen in swimming? You go swim for the first time, you've just got involved in triathlon, or you started to swim again, you haven't swam for a while, especially if you're a non-swimmer, you don't have a background, you haven't swam. And the first session that you do in your preparation for your race doesn't feel good, just like it would in running. Lots of folks get on and go try to get a swim lesson. So I want to talk about how that is overrated, and it's probably something we don't need to do, actually.
A lot of times you don't need to do it. It's very overvalued.
So let's go in and sort of bite in and dissect what should we get out of a swim lesson, okay? What are the things to look for in a swim lesson? So let's talk about this. A swim lesson, a swim consultation, which we also do. Differentiate.
So you're going to talk about 2 different things: swim lesson, swim consultation.
Well, from what we offer at Tower 26, we'll talk about those 2 things, but I'll shift the conversation mainly to the swim lesson, because I want the audience to recognize the differentiation between the 2, and then help the audience to understand when a swim lesson is very valuable and when it's not.
Gotcha.
So let's start off by first defining what a swim lesson is, or what we should expect to get out of a swim lesson. So we want to be able to, the reason we're taking it is to get some form of, typically, technical enhancement, some modification to our swim mechanics, because we may think we're making mistakes. So we want some modification with the hope that that's going to have a yield. After we've taken the swim lesson, there's going to be a return. We're going to have an improvement, right?
Right, got it. Yeah.
Okay. Now it's a matter of how do you extract that information? From the teaching perspective, what should the user or the person taking the swim lesson, the athlete, what should they receive? So in a swim lesson, as we bucket it at Tower 26, we think there are a couple of things that you need to look for in a swim lesson and make it very simple for the receiver, the athlete taking the lesson, to be able to be engaged, remember what they're being told, and then be able to leave the lesson and go to their swimming pool and execute it and practice it over and over. So we take the same things that we talk about in these podcasts, the 3 criteria, the 3 buckets that we sort of put swimming technique into: tautness, alignment, and propulsion, right?
Propulsion, right.
So in a swim lesson, at least with us, we would give feedback to our swim lesson folks on are they taught, and we would give feedback to that. Is there any alignment or misalignment issues? We'll give feedback to that, and then we'll talk about some propulsive things. That bracket there, that's very subjective information. That's your opinion or my opinion or another coach's opinion on what you should technically be doing, right? Then I think in a swim lesson, we need to have some very objective data that cannot be, we can't disagree on it, such as, it is what it is. If you gave the swim lesson or I gave the swim lesson, we'd both get the same result in doing this. And that's the objective data, and that would be things that measure, that have some sort of quantifiable measurement to them, such as cadence rate. So we would have the athletes swim at their race effort. So if it's an Ironman, we'd have them swim at Ironman effort. If it's a half Ironman, swim at half Ironman effort. If it's an Olympic distance that they're preparing for, we'd have them swim at what they perceive to be Olympic distance effort, right? And we typically have them swim a 100. And the reason is we don't count the first 2 lengths or the first 50. If you're swimming in a 50-meter pool, since our pool is yard, short course, the first 2 lengths don't count because everyone tends to sort of overreach, go a little too fast too soon. So we only look at the back 2 lengths and we extract 2 or 3 pieces of data there. One, their time. How long did they take them to swim those back 2 lengths? So we now have a sense of, is this their pace that they can hold for their distance that they're looking for? Their stroke count, how many strokes per length that they're taking. So that measures some efficiency, right? And then a stroke rate, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. How many arm strokes in a minute? That's very, very quantifiable data that if you took it or I took it or any other coach took it, it would be the same. And the reason we do that is so that if a person does make improvements, we can come back to those quantifiable pieces again and see if there are any changes there. And that's easily measurable. The thing about the technical changes is that's opinion, if somebody has gotten better or not, because sometimes it doesn't show up in the data, the ultimate data, which is improved performance.
You see that all the time when we're doing these lessons or we're doing a lot of the subscription program stuff. They say, oh, you know, I'm not getting my times as fast, but then their overall time at a triathlon is faster because they're coming out fitter and they're more efficient. And, you know, so what you're saying is totally making sense. You got to have both ends of the spectrum.
And I think we have to be able to recognize and be realistic about expectations coming out of swimming lessons. If you took a swimming lesson and you were given instruction to improve certain things, let's improve this amount of misalignment. And we're going to show something in a moment.
No, we're not going to show this one.
We're going to show an example of misalignment. But here's the deal. If somebody has a terrible misalignment, and there are areas that they can improve their capacity there, okay? Not because you got this great swim tip that improved your alignment and you made the corrections that you're going to get a yield immediately. Meaning you go back and in your next training session or your next few training sessions or your next race that you're faster. And that's where this misperception of swim lessons come in. You still have to train the muscles, okay?
It's my favorite word, Jer. Go ahead. Proprioception. You gotta...
Good.
Go for it. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Well, no, they need to understand that we have to practice this over and over so the muscles are able to receive that change and therefore execute with the new technical lines that we've defined for them and then be able to actually perform better. That takes training. So improvement in swimming, performance improvement is not just technical. You need the training component to it. And it's a stair-step game. So especially when somebody's now starting off, training for a race. Let's say they picked a race 3 months out. I'm going to do this race. Thinking that I need a swim lesson, I think is the inappropriate time to take a lesson. I think you need about 3 weeks or so of training or swimming, even if you did many things incorrectly. And 3 weeks swimming 3 times a week for about 45 minutes to an hour at varying prescriptive efforts. Now notice there were 3 or 4 pieces of criteria there. 3 weeks, a time frame, frequency, the number of times in a week, 3 or 4.
Get in the pool.
The amount of time each session, okay, 45 minutes to 60 minutes. And then within the session, the prescriptive dosage of what to do which is at various effort levels. After you've done that for about 3 weeks with those 4 variables, then we have put into place some basic platform of swim-specific fitness that we're able to then absorb or properly absorb technical instruction.
Yeah.
So when the coach, Jim, gives the feedback to the athlete is then reasonably fit enough to be able to make some of those changes and continue to do them in their training sessions.
Yeah, I mean, I see it all the time. People come in the pool and they want a swim lesson, but they can't make it across the pool one time. They don't have the fitness and they don't have the feel to apply what I'm telling them. So this makes perfect sense. You got to get in the water and get that feel and get that, you know, consistency before we can actually do work on your stroke.
Right. If the heart rate's too high, and there's a difference, and another difference between swimming and riding or running, or swimming and land sports. We have a fear factor in swimming. We have an anxiety factor, okay? There's not so much of an anxiety factor running. If you got really fatigued, so you walk, you stop. In swimming, especially if you're in an open body of water, or if you're in a pool that's deep, if you got super fatigued and heart rate started screaming, there's a little bit of anxiety that
it's, go right down.
It's unsafe, right? So we want to be able to mitigate those things. So we need some form of platform in place, some sort of basic fitness platform, so we can absorb proper technical instruction first. So a swimming lesson should have some basic ingredients to it. Now, let's define the difference between a swimming lesson and a swim consultation, which is one of the services that we provide. And a swim consultation is sort of a broader scope, which I think has greater value than a swim lesson. Because a swim consultation, it's just a word we've given to it. Think of this in terms of an overall diagnostic, okay? You get your technique refined or measured under the criteria of tautness, alignment, and propulsion.
So are you at the location seeing this person swim, or are you watching them on video, or how are we doing consultation?
We can do either. We can do either. In fact, we had a gentleman this morning, as you know, from Singapore, Andrew.
Andrew, good guy.
Yep.
Experienced triathlete. Yeah.
So he's doing a consultation, but he's doing it live. He's here with us, but most of them are done remotely. So you would have your swim mechanics reviewed just as it were a swim lesson. So you'd send in video and we'd review the video. But the important thing is the secondary portion to the swim lesson, or the added portion, which would then be the further diagnostic, which is things such as we then need to learn, or we should be asking the athlete, their frequency of swimming. How many times a week?
Yeah.
The length of each session. The volume of training. How many weeks or months they've been doing it. What's the prescriptive dosage in each session? In other words, are they swimming at one sustained effort, or are they varying efforts? We really need to get a comprehensive overview of their training regime. With that, and the technical aspects, we can then give a good advice for improvement.
Gotcha.
So those are the two differences. But at a minimum, with the swim lesson, at a minimum, it's a matter of timing when we should take a lesson. And it's typically not when I've found most people are requesting it, such as, what was last weekend? What race we had last week? Oh, what did you race? Malibu Triathlon.
Yeah.
What happens?
I did both days, just to clarify. I did both races, back to back,
What happens 3 weeks before Malibu?
I need a swim lesson. I need to learn how to swim. Everybody comes out of the woodwork.
Yes.
Yep.
And I want to come to the ocean to do an ocean swim with us.
Yep.
I got to get acclimated to the ocean. One time's going to get you acclimated?
Not the ocean out here. I was in Bora Bora a couple weeks ago. My wife, she knows how to travel, and that ocean, it's like a pool. Out here, no. You gotta get in the water. You gotta get the feel. You gotta know how to enter the waves. You gotta know how to get past the waves, swim through the water that's chopped. I mean, it takes time.
Yeah. So the when we receive or ask for a swim lesson becomes important, and then also once we take a lesson, we have to be able to have a feedback system after or post lesson. It's one thing to get the data points during the lesson and then you go apply it, but how do you know you're making the corrections? So you're going to have a coach at your location where you're swimming, either overviewing and supervising you, or you're going to have to resubmit some form of video again to get feedback, because you want to make sure that you're doing the correct things or the things that were prescribed to you. So swim lessons on the whole, obviously they have value, but we need to be able to, how do we get the best yield out of them? And there are ways to go about doing that.
Well, that's the thing. You can be told all day long, this is what you're doing, but if you're not applying that daily in training and making it part of your natural swim stroke, by someone sat yelling, do it this way, do it this way. When I was playing ice hockey, we'd go over the plans and on the chalkboard, and then we go out and do it, and we'd completely mess it up. But the coach every time would be like, okay, do it right, do it right, do it right. You need someone right there telling you, no, you're doing it wrong, do it right. No, you're doing it wrong, do it right. Because no matter how much you think you're doing something, most likely you're doing it wrong.
Well, one of the valuable things, and we were talking to Christophe about this earlier, before the podcast, is actually being able to show, if it's possible, during the swim lesson, and definitely during the consultation, because for sure we have that built into the consultation, but in the swim lesson, to actually be able to show the person what they're doing. So I'm going to show an example, Jim.
Yeah, let's preface it that I did this on purpose, right?
No, I asked you.
Yeah, okay.
I asked Jim, so many years ago.
There, it's on purpose, yeah.
Jim had an incredible amount of misalignment when he swam. So we're going to take a look here at Jim swimming.
So now this is new technology, right? Now, I don't think this has been used on Facebook Live yet, so let's check it out.
So here's Jim. I've got him in slow motion here, going by. And if Christophe has him going, are we on?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah. And here's Jim. And we're going to look for some misalignment things. And I know you're doing this overly exaggerated because I wanted you to do this. But once we see ourselves, then it becomes easier to understand and get a visual on some of the mistakes to be making. So while you were doing this, I'm going to sort of freeze frame, even let's say right here, for instance, for a moment. And we can show a line.
My favorite fruit.
Your
banana.
The favorite fruit. Why is our line... there we go. So we got an arc in the body here, right? So we got a little curve in Jim's body, and what we really want are straight lines for the body to stay in a really narrow channel, but as you can notice, your legs are out of the channel here.
Totally.
So this is the arc body, the banana, okay? Misalignment is what's occurring here. So just being able to get a visual on this, and then you actually go back and you correct it, get reasonably well lined up here, because if we took a look at you here now, we're dead straight.
Perfect.
Everything's good. I mean, this is Jim. This is the man, right? Look at that.
There. Perfect. Straight as an arrow.
That's what we want. But if you didn't get the opportunity to see what you did prior, or what's coming up here again, and there's that twist, and it looks like your head's almost going to run into the wall, and there's a big, big twist right there, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, really twist it. So there's a simple example of misalignment.
But then you were also on me. You're on me every workout. After we do something like this, you're on me. Hey, you're misaligned. Hey, you're misaligned. Put your snorkel and buoy on and think about alignment. You're on me all the time about it, and you know it's slowly become fixed. But it's because someone's been there watching and stressing. Hey, you got to do it the right way.
So all the message here is swim lessons are important. They have a value, but if you want to get the biggest yield out of them, you need to be able to get some sort of review post-lesson, or some a coach that's at your location, or video being resent, so you can be reviewed again and again. And of course, once coming up, by the way, we have our in November, we're going to create that opportunity for us to be able to do that with in our subscription program.
Coaching.tower26.com.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go. Well, that's some interesting stuff. So swim lessons sometimes are overrated, and we can, I'm sure you have questions on that. So we have a new website to ask your questions, contact@tower26.com. Contact@tower26.com. Jared,
you mean to email us?
Email us questions. If you have a question about lessons.
So no longer Jerry.
No longer.
Thank you.
Now you're throwing me off. You're confusing me. It's hard enough to remember this. Contact@tower26.com.
Okay, got it.
All right? So then our scribe is going to tell us what important questions are and what the half-assed questions are. Like when Charles writes in, we're going to say, Charles, go back to downloading our episodes. We don't need to answer more questions from you. But we have another exciting announcement to make. We're going to have a new website coming out soon, Jer.
Well, we're upgrading.
Yes,
we haven't refreshed our website in 8 or 9 years, and thank you to the wonderful Christophe.
Producer
Thank you very, very much. That he's been working on our website for the last several months, and we're going to launch that. The first segment of it will get launched on October 1st, and then be a second segment launched, I believe, the middle of November, then the last segment the middle of December.
And our remote program is going to be integrated into the website. Our coaching.tower26.com is going to be integrated into the new website.
Right, we're going to have it all under one banner, so if someone coming in can see all the different segments, and he's created a lot of great visuals in it, and it's very, very simplistic, which is what I like, trying to, because we can get busy with stuff, and Christophe has a keen eye for for keeping things fresh and simple looking, and he's done a good job. So I'm looking forward to that launch coming up.
Yeah.
And
when it does come out, though, if you have any problems with it, email contact@tower26.com, and Christoph will be sure not to read those problems because he doesn't like constructive criticism. We can say that, right? So hey, let's get on to the workout of the episode. Remember, you can go to coaching.tower26.com for this workout.
So this workout is an example of a workout that can be redone multiple times. We did this workout several times, and we brought it up in several other episodes.
Yeah.
But here's how we can modify the workout for this time or this portion of the season. It's typically called the Mambo workout.
Mambo. We have to rename it. I think maybe the Rodriguez.
We've had different types of names for it. So I'm going to quickly run through it, and it's on our website. So
the Hot Jerry. How about the Hot Jerry?
So
you don't remember that episode?
That's just stuff.
Episode 5, the Hot Jerry. Okay.
So once we get started, we've done your stretch scourge. We go into an easy warm up. It's 7 or 8 minutes of easy swimming. Then we have a secondary warm up. Where in this case, and remember, when we give these workouts, they're tailored for level 1 or our fastest athletes, which only represent 8% of our audience, but we scale it downwards. So there are 4 different levels. So this is for the elite end, and then it's scaled accordingly. So your your volume or the frequency that you would do some of these things may be reduced. So this is at the highest level. We then go into a second warm-up set of 100s, and those are done with fins on, and some of them are kicking, some of them are swimming. Sorry to start off. Some are kick, swim, and then the last few are all kicking. So we move in by sets of 3s how we did these, and we have fins on for them. And there's some examples in there on our website showing you how to properly kick, what the right methodology is. And by the way, we're doing these butterfly kick on your back. And there's a reason we do that for this time of the season, which is the racing season, because butterfly kick, and you don't have to be a butterflyer to know how to do butterfly kick. It's great work for your core, strengthens core.
Yeah.
And we're doing it in the pool, which is actually where we need it. So that's why we actually do butterfly kicking on our back in our workouts.
Well, you get a lot of these athletes wearing fins, and wear fins. I mean, if you're not a natural swimmer, doing butterfly kick on your back is pretty tough without fins. You put the fins on, but a lot of swimmers tend to use their knees. They should be using their hips, right? Driving their hips through, using that core to drive them on the butterfly.
So the video explains all of that we have in there and so on. And then we have another little warm-up set with some more kicking, 25s again, and it's all butterfly kick. Once we get through that, now we get into the body of the workout, which is the set that we've done many times. There are 3 effort levels. And in simplistic terms, think of this as an easy effort, a moderate effort, and a fast effort, okay? And we have this noted as 70%, 80%, and 90%. You have a 100, the first distance, and that's always at 70%. Then you're going to have a longer distance. In this case, we started off at a 600. A longer distance, and that's your 80% effort. Then we have a little recovery again. We come back to a 100 at 70%. And then your final distance, which is another 100, is at 90%. So it's 70%, 80%, 70%, 90%, 100, 600, 100, 100. And we do that, and we bracket that, and we have rest intervals. It's all on the website, how much rest to take. And then we do that, and we come down in distance at the 80% effort. So on round 1, the 80% effort in this example is a 600. On round 2, it becomes a 500. On round 3, it becomes a 400. On round 4, it becomes a 300, and so on. So we taper down the 80% effort, trim it as we go through each cycle, while maintaining the 70% 100s on either side of that, and always a high effort 100. Additionally, because we're in racing season, we add in some open water components. And this is where you can use some of the same workouts that we did in prior seasons or prior phases, and sprinkle in the necessary ingredients. We put in sighting here now. So in the 80% efforts, we're doing 1 sighting per 25. And on the 90% efforts, we're doing 2 to 3 sightings per 25. So high frequency of sighting when we're going fast, lower frequency of sighting when we're at 80%, and we're doing no sighting at the very easy stuff.
Got it.
And essentially that's the workout. I mean, there's some more details to it, but it's on the website.
Well, after doing this workout, 50 times and reading 200 athletes doing this workout, just to give a heads up, if you go do this at 70% effort, it has to be 70%. You can't, especially in those earlier rounds, you want to get after it, you want to go. You got to take it easy on that effort so you can really get after it on the 80% and max effort. Otherwise, it all fall apart three rounds in.
And that's a notable distinction there, because we need to be able to have very separate effort levels and clearly noted effort levels of 70, 80, and 90% for this workout to have high value.
Yeah, totally.
Otherwise, you're stuck in that one gear, that 70% or 75% effort level that most people
It's a great time to experiment with those effort levels and make that difference, and go easy in the easy swim so you can go fast in the fast swims.
Yes.
That's what my t-shirt's going to say in Kona. All right, let's get to the questions of the episode. We got a lot of good ones here. Remember, contact@tower26.com. Christoph put that on the screen. Is it right here? Is it right there? Yeah, good. Okay. First question is from Ann Murphy. Hey Jerry, note of thanks. I raced Ironman Lake Placid 70.3 as a relay swimmer. Hear trumpet in the background going nuts. Christoph's dog. Hey, as a relay swimmer, 30 minutes, 20 seconds, 15th overall female, and 3rd in the relay division. Wow, that's huge. Tell Jim I felt the pressure to keep the title of Smokin' Fast for a 55 to 59-year-old. And is a smoking fast 55 to 59-year-old.
That's a fast 30-minute, 70.3.
Really quick. I did struggle getting boxed in and not being able to break free from a pack of men, causing a lot of turbulence. It's always those men, always the men causing problems. I believe this was due to the fog on the water and their inability to sight properly. Any suggestions?
Ann, thanks for your question. Ann's in our subscription program, as you know.
Yeah.
Ann's made great progress.
Huge progress.
But this is a good swimmer to start with. I mean, 30 minutes for a 55 to 59-year-old woman for a half Ironman swim is fast. That being said, being boxed in, whether guys caused it or whomever caused it, let's remove the cause for a moment and work on the solution. Our job as an athlete is to try to avoid that from happening at all costs. So races such as the 1 mile of 1,500 meters on the track, okay? Sprint races at the criterium races on the bike. These are good things to look at. The athletes who usually do very well in those races win or medal, podium on them. Those are the athletes who are always looking and thinking 10 seconds ahead. If I stayed in the position I'm in right now, I may get boxed in. So you're always trying to think ahead and put yourself, or give yourself the opportunity to have space around you and not be boxed in. So we always have to think not just in the moment, we have to do think in the moment, but not only that, we also have to be thinking ahead and therefore trying to mitigate those types of things from occurring.
This also comes from doing your homework pre-race, knowing the course. Knowing Lake Placid is a very tight area to swim. I've done Lake Placid maybe 3 or 4 times, and there's only so much area to swim. So you have to know, okay, there's gonna be a lot of people in a little amount of space. Where am I going to go so I don't get caught in the melee? And that's just knowing the course. For example, when I did it, I swim on the inside of the buoys, which is legal. As long as you go around the turn buoys, you can swim on the inside of the buoys, you don't get boxed in. Stay a little further outside the buoys, you won't get boxed in.
Good.
Agreed?
Yeah.
And what about the fog? How do you deal with fog in swimming? Just take it buoy to buoy, watch people in front of you? Is there any secrets that the Rodriguez mind can come up with off the cuff that can help you navigate in the fog?
Well, fog is just a visual impairment while swimming, right? So we have to come back to, if we want to swim straight, if that's the essence of the question, what do we need to do? Well, we need data points that we're swimming straight. So we're always trying to look for the buoy that we're swimming towards, or the marker. We also can look behind us to see the marker we just left. So that's another point of reference. And we could also triangulate and look for a marker point that's lateral of us.
Yeah.
So we have 3 points of reference. And additionally, especially in fog, and this is a safety precaution, we can always listen. And if we can hear, if it's in an ocean, you can hear the waves, so you know laterally about where you are, or if you're swimming straight. If you're not hearing the waves anymore, you know you're going way off course.
Be in China.
Yes.
Next question from Jonathan Huber of Denver. Hey, Jerry, Jim, I just wanted to thank you for the incredibly informative podcast. I'm a runner, but last December I decided to start swimming 2 times a week for active recovery. I was comfortable enough in the water to not drown, but getting across a 25-yard pool was tiring. After getting the total immersion book, I improved enough to decide to attempt my first triathlon, but had no idea how to prepare for it, and this led to Tower 26. With With only 8 months to develop, swimming is still the hardest of the 3 disciplines for me, but I've really learned to love it. Your podcast helped me prepare even with my limited time in the water. A few weeks ago, I completed the Olympic distance sunset triathlon in Boulder. I felt happy in the water, sighting the whole way. I came out in 31 minutes. I also felt good on the bike and finished up with a total time of 2 hours and 50 minutes. This wouldn't have been possible without all the information from the Tower 26 podcast. This was by far the most helpful podcast out there. Thank you for putting out this great resource.
Jonathan, thanks for the note.
That's a great improvement for a runner to swimmer. That's huge.
Big improvement. And the thing that caught my attention, why I wanted this gratitude talked about or released on the episode here, is because of the mind shift that Jonathan had to having a positive relationship with swimming. And once we change that mind shift and have that positive relationship, you're then sort of thirsty for more education, better training, and so on. And he had that mind shift, therefore he went off and had a great experience and a good yield.
Gotcha. Change your mind shift, and you know who taught us that? Lionel Sanders, right? Didn't you tell Lionel Sanders to do that? And all of a sudden, he made a big jump in his swimming. Said, you know what? Don't say I hate swimming. Say I love swimming.
Oh, that's right. In the very first, you're right.
I've listened to the podcasts, obviously.
Very first conversation we ever had, yes.
Alexander Malmstrom of Sweden writes, hey, Jerry, I just started my journey in the triathlon, swimming on and off during the last year, including open water during this past summer. My pace during my longer swims, 1.5 to 2K, is 2 minutes per 100 meters. Sprinting at 25, I hold 120 per 100 meters with a recovery of 20 seconds. I could do several of these sprints. How do I build my endurance swimming? What should be done to swim faster than 2-minute pace on my longer swims without recovery? I figure I should be able to, since I got the speed in my body for shorter sprints. Thanks for a great podcast.
Alexander, thank you for the question. And this is sort of fairly standard here.
Yeah, oh yeah, I hear it all the time.
Where here's what I can do. How do I really improve, right? With and get faster because I can sprint at this speed. In simplistic terms, you need to get on a program. It doesn't have to be hours, but you need to get coached so you can understand proper programming methodologies for training, right? So you can hit different training levels, easy, moderate, fast efforts. Know how to build out what's the sexy word? When you build out the whole platform of training, periodization.
Sexy word.
Yeah, exactly. So lay out a training plan for you that covers all the different levels, and over time, and that's the key, we get a yield. It just doesn't happen overnight. 120 for 25-meter speed, and then 2 minutes at consistent pace. I don't see that being a huge delta. It's not bad. It's probably in the norm. But you need a good training platform.
Yeah, you need to hit all those bases, hit those effort levels that we were talking about on the workout of the episode.
Yeah.
We have a question that came in on Facebook, Jer. I think we're gonna ask you out there. Adam Coates writes, "What's your thoughts on endless pools? Better or worse or different than the pool or open water?"
Endless pools.
Endless pools. What's your thought?
Well, I'm writing it down. Adam, was it? Adam, thanks.
Adam Coates.
Thanks for your question.
Thanks for writing in. I like this. A little interactive.
That was great. Thank you, Christophe. Up until 2 years ago, I didn't have any experience with endless pools. And in fact, Lionel, since you brought the name up, was the one who was thinking about getting an endless pool, and he has one now. Made me think, let me go test this. And then we've subsequently made a bunch of our videos in an endless pool. I was impressed and found greater value in the endless pool than I thought. And one of the things I had not thought of, which became of high value, was because of the turbulence generated from the motor, you were training in a highly dynamic environment. And that variable I had not thought of. I thought of all the obvious ones. You're going to get technical feedback because the video system's there. You could stop and check things and so on. You can vary your efforts and all the normal things you could do in a pool. But I hadn't thought of the dynamic nature of it. And that alone has high value for the triathlete. So I think it's a good tool if you can use it or have access to it. Doing it all the time, that's fine. But obviously going into real open water and actually having a few also workouts in a pool would be helpful. but I think an endless pool has value.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of workouts on endless pool, and just to have that consistent pacing like on a treadmill where there's no interruptions, you could just swim straight without any turns, no walls, it really adds a nice dynamic to your training. So if you have the option to do that, get in there a couple times a week and enjoy it. But I think you need to do everything, right? You need to put all the ingredients in the cake so that when the cake comes out of the oven, it's not missing anything and it tastes great. Maybe my t-shirt should say that. Next question from Megan Billadou. How do you say? I always screw up her name. She writes in all the time.
Just call it Megan B.
Megan
she's
B,
on our platform.
Subscriber. Yeah, she's very interactive on the platform. It's great to see. Christophe, he's a French guy. He knows it, but I don't, whatever. I'm Polish. I know the Polish names. Charles P, right? Hey, Jerry, Jim, and Jessica. Jessica is another coach on the platform. Yes. She answers to the questions. We'll get her on the show sometime, maybe.
Yes.
She's going to steal my thunder. That's the problem. Past weekend, oh my God, I raced in the swim. It was just a sprint aqua bike, but it was an experience that I hope I can remember and replicate. The water was 80.1, so it wasn't wetsuit legal. I was stoked, but then I got in the water and warmed up, and the 67-degree air temperature left me blue and shaking. Do you recommend warming up in the water if the air temperature differential is so great? You have to do the math on that because I cannot subtract or add or any of that stuff. So you tell me the math. Do we bring a giant towel to the start with us? At the start, I got on fast feet, but unlike the last race where I got overwhelmed at the start and dropped off, I stayed on the feet and we moved forward quickly. Then I sighted and noticed separation had occurred. A few blue caps now had a gap on me. I left the feet and went after the two blue caps. I got onto one at the first turn buoy and caught up to the next blue cap and swam to her left. Now we are on the back stretch of the course and really getting into traffic. We were drag racing down the stretch. She was tight to the buoy line and I was outside of it. And in sighting, I realized she would get pinned at the turn home buoy while I would be able to go around and choose my own line. I turned it on trying to beat her to the pinch point, made the turn and tried to find some extra speed to the beach. Now we are really in traffic. Side by side stroking, backstrokes, and so many breaststrokers. I thread the needle through the two women who were side by side without even thinking. Just extended my arms and drove right through, and I know I'm having a great swim. I'm pretty sure I'm leading my division right now, so I pour it on until I can touch sand, pop up. The deck ups really came into play here. I run up the beach, passing people through transition. I get to the bike, woot, and crank away. Guys, I had the sixth fastest swim of the day and the fastest bike split of the day. You want to do the wee?
No, that's up to you.
I was giddy with excitement, and I still am, as you can see here. I never used sighting to spot leaders and make strategic decisions before, and the ability to strategize while swimming my brains out was a cool feeling. I remember the first time that happened when I used to race bikes. The magical moment where I'm no longer just hanging on, surviving, and trying not to die, but able to clearly think and process and weigh consequences and outcomes. It's truly amazing. Truly, thank you, Tower 26, for making me a swimmer, a real swimmer. This is the coolest process. I just love it. Love, Megan. Wow, yep. That was great. Yep. I think she's an author.
It's a long note.
No long note, but I enjoyed reading it.
The detail of Megan, thank you for sending this in. And the reason I didn't want to trim the note was because Megan went into a lot of steps here. And what it showed was the process-driven execution that she put out in this race, which is really important. And the only way you're able to do that is through practice.
Yep.
And you have to do it multiple times in practice. And as you know, Megan is committed. She doesn't miss the sessions. She does all of them. She checks in with the coaches. She has the accountability, obviously. And high frequency, she listens to the audio files. Megan does all the steps, and she's been able to have this tremendous outcome. So congratulations on your performance. But I think what's important, she was able to experience what she had done in biking, okay? Which is what we've done in these workouts. We've taken some of the things from bike racing, applied them into the open water swimming because it's the same dynamic. It's no different than a criterium in a race.
Totally.
It's a pack of people. You're trying to make sure you, from the prior question, not boxed in, looking for good positioning. She was step by step looking ahead as she talked about, getting towards the buoy, realizing the other girl was going to get pinched, so she moved wide. She did all the right things. Very process driven. Totally engaged. So outstanding.
Great work, Meg.
That said, her question was about, at the very beginning, regarding the water temperature being 80 degrees and the air temperature being 67 or something less. Whatever that delta is, if you're going to feel cold, one of the things we can do at these races, warm up in your wetsuit, right? Take your wetsuit with you, warm up in it, take it off, and or if you don't have your wetsuit, after you warm up, get a sweatshirt on. And even if it's something, and sometimes transitions make it difficult because you may not be able to have, so you have a sweatshirt that you can throw away.
Yep.
But
they do it at run races.
Yes.
Yeah.
So have something.
See everything get kicked off to the side. Same thing in swimming.
Exactly. Have something that keeps the core warm and or warm up in your wetsuit.
There you go. I think we'll take another question here. Another question we got time for? Todd Larrelly. Big old Todd. Hot Toddy is what we call him. Todd Larrelly, Hot Toddy. In case of bigger surf, what should guide one's decision to swim or not? How should I make that decision on race day? Looking forward to hearing your answer on the podcast.
Todd, Coach Todd, thank you. Todd was one of our coaches at Tower 26 several years ago and moved away. This is a very timely question. What happened this weekend?
Malibu
triathlon.
Intense surf, very intense surf.
So the main thing, which was Todd's question, to dictate what you should or shouldn't do is safety. That's number one. We have innate alarm bells built in, survival bells. And if those bells are going off, don't race. I mean, bottom line is you need to go home to your husband, your wife, your daughters, your parents, your family, whomever. That's number one is self-preservation, safety. If you haven't been practicing and you don't build these into your training workouts, as we do at Tower 26, then the degree of difficulty is going to be much higher, right?
Yep, totally.
So you need to build this sort of stuff into your training session so when you get to event day, you're a little better prepared. Our members had some level of anxiety, but they'd been through we've been through 4 to 6 to 7 foot surf, so they were able to execute the swim and do fine. But safety always comes first.
If you haven't practiced in something like that, really think it through. Let's take one more question that we got online, and then we'll call it a show, Jeremy. What do you think about that? Great job, gents. I have a question on the workout of the episode. It's from Randall Eichhoff. So, Randall, thanks for writing in.
Randy
Eichhoff. You know Randy?
Of course.
Good old guy.
Randy?
Really? Obviously, we were just out for beers last week. Does it make sense to set intervals for the longer swims? Right, that's part one. Part two, how much would changing the order of the longer swims from short to long impact the workout?
Randy, thanks for the question. I know why you're asking this. I haven't seen you in a while. Randy, we used to swim in our program several years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while.
In fact, Randy, we just talked about you, Matt Dixon and I, because as you go back several years ago, remember we did that set of 3 1500s, and it was and Matt and I interviewed me on a podcast.
That's right.
His podcast.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I just heard that.
So your name came up. Yeah. But thanks for your question. We have done that set in the past, as you know, and we've done it the other way, where we started with the lower distance, the 80% effort at a 100, and we climbed up the ladder, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and in fact, at our workouts, we went all the way up to 8. We do both. We go up, which is ascending, and we also, in this workout, I gave it as a descending way. And I did it descending because I didn't want the workout to be as loaded based on the time of the season where we are and the placement of races and so on. So it depends on the racing season and what type of load you want the workout to have. That's why we did that. And then the reason that, and we also, on your question about intervals, we don't have a lot of rest on the wall per se, because we built in those 2 70% effort swims, and those are active recovery rest periods. So typically after the 70% swim, we'd have 10 or 15 seconds, so you just get mentally ready to go hit your 80%, or mentally ready to go hit your fast 90% effort. But good question. The set can go up or down at the 80% one.
More details, coaching.tower26.com on that one.
So thanks, Randy.
Call the questions there. Remember, go right in contact@tower26.com. Well, next show's our big show. Live in Kona, right? It's 2 weeks.
Live in Kona. You're still working out the location.
Working out the location. We'll get that out. As soon as you'll know where it's at, because you're going to be everywhere.
Well, let's give out sort of the details that we know at the moment.
Right.
We will run 3 sessions, a Wednesday morning, Thursday morning, and Friday morning race preparation sessions, early in the 6:30-ish time slot. Why at that time?
Race start.
Race starts around that time.
Race, yeah.
So let's start.
Is everyone invited or just
preparing the body?
Everyone's invited to these?
Well, we're inviting our base athletes, Matt Miller. We're inviting our core athletes from Kebi, Purple Patch athletes from Matt Dixon. Of course, importantly, all of our subscribers are invited to those sessions. And then, in fact, we're going to have our subscribers will get a little bit of a preference because our subscribers are going to get a little window to come a few minutes earlier.
Yeah.
So we'll run those 3
For
workouts.
autographs, right? Autograph?
With you.
I'll bring my pen. So bring your own pen. I'm not going to bring a pen.
So that's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, early in the morning. And there will be likely 2 at the pool, 1 at the open water. And then we'll run our podcast on Thursday sometime in the middle towards the early afternoon. And you're tying up the location details.
We'll figure out the location, and you know what? We'll make it work. Yeah. It's going to be great. It's going to be a great experience. And when I'm not at the swim or at the podcast, you'll find me on the beach tanning because I got to keep this bronze.
And you know what? I'm going to swim the course on Wednesday.
Yeah.
To get a real good sense of it. So when I talk about the course, it's real experience, and that in conjunction with, I'm going to swim with Matt Dixon, and then I'm going to try to get one of the race officials to talk about the race course.
Gotcha. And I'll be on the coffee boat, just down in the Java. That's my job while we're there. Well, we look forward to it. It's going to be a fun time. Remember, contact at tower26.com. Get your shirt and hat order in before Sunday, midnight Pacific time. We're looking forward to the new website coming out, and yeah, it's going to be some exciting couple weeks. So stay tuned to Tower 26 on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you name it. We're going to be out there getting right in your face. So Jared, thanks for an amazing episode. Look forward to seeing you guys next time. For this guy, Jerry Rodriguez, Christoph Balestra, and myself, this is the Tower 26 Be Race Ready podcast.